Hello, welcome to my dish channel. Firstly, I would like to say thank you very much for all the kind feedback I got from the first video. It's nice to know you're out there, you're listening and you want to see more. So hopefully I'm going to give you some more videos in the future which are going to be helpful for you. You might be wondering why I'm sitting here with this blue thing around my neck. Well, actually it's a bean bag. I call it the Octopus, basically. Put it in the microwave, and I've just finished work, so my shoulders and my neck are feeling pretty tight at the moment. So I'll put this on here. It's got a little upstand there, and you can just cross it over here. Keeps all your neck nice and warm. I was just going to talk about a couple of little props that I've got that I use on a day-to-day basis before I talk about medications, which is what this clip's about. Before I got dish, I was diagnosed with coccydynia. So one of these is very useful because you've got the cutout here. So when you're sitting on the sofa at night, whatever, this cutout takes away any pressure on the coccyx and relieves it. And I can tell you, I've been using this for 5 years and my coccyx pain is almost gone. Although I think the coccyx is actually fused, so that's probably why. When I'm in the car, I use this one, which is another sort of coccyx reliever. I made this one at work. Also, when I'm at work, I always use one of these. It's got a strap on the back, and you can just slide the strap over the back of your chair that you sit on and put this into the small of your back, and this will keep the lordosis in the bottom of the spine, which will help the pressure on your back and try and relieve it a little bit. If I'm doing some work, maybe for some photography, I do quite a lot of photography with my work, and if I'm stood up and my arms are out with a camera, my back starts to really give me grief. So again at work I've made one of these, and this is a really strong piece of elastic. And basically I can just wrap this around underneath my clothes. I can just wrap this around underneath like this, and then bring that over there like that. And this is really tight now around my thoracic spine. And what it does is it just helps support you whilst you're working, and I find it's great. It gives me about an extra hour in a day before I'm sort of really feeling it. And then occasionally I'll just take it off just to try and get the blood circulation going again. So today I want to talk about medications, but before I do that I want to talk about the pain that we suffer with dish and where it comes from, what causes it. And I think it's, and someone has said to me, you need to point out that this is my interpretation. So I'm no medical expert, so I'm not saying that this is hard and fast. This is what the conclusions I've come to. I'm not saying it's absolutely 100% correct. So what I think happens is early on the progression of dish, those entheses that I was talking about on that previous video, they start to become weak, and what happens is that the muscles have to start overcompensating to take the pressure off your spine, your neck, wherever it may be. So those muscles are starting to work harder. And also you get the myofascial tissues start to get claggy because they're just working so hard. And within that tissue and within that muscle, you then start to get that pain because the muscles have just said, look, I've had enough of this, and this is where the pain starts. It's your body saying, look, I've had enough. Go and lay down. Don't carry on doing what you're doing because it hurts. Then later on in the progression of dish, you get the build-up of the calcium and you get the spurs. Now these spurs can grow into places where they're not wanted. So they could grow into the spinal canal, which is called stenosis. Now, if that happens, it's going to start pressing onto your spinal cord, which is going to really cause you problems. The same goes for the neck. If there's any pressure from a spur in the neck that's encroaching onto the spinal cord, you'll start to get pains maybe down your arm, and you'll start to get weaknesses in your arm. And if that happens, you need to go and see the doctor, because that's a sure sign that something's going on in your neck and you need to get it looked at. So with those two types of pain, I think there are different ways of medicating to help. With the muscle spasms and things like that, I'm going to talk about what painkillers you can use and what muscle relaxants you can use. When it comes to nerve pain, where it's actually pressing on a nerve and causing, like a radial pain down your arm, or like sciatica, for instance, when you go down your leg, nerve pain is a lot more, it hurts a lot more, and it's a different type of pain, and you need a different type of drug to sort of get on top of that. So I've got a whole select. I don't know if you can see these. There's a selection of drugs here that I've got in my medicine cabinet, and I just want to run through the different types of medicines and the levels of pain relief that you're going to get. The first thing that I use, I don't want to try and put too many drugs into my body. I'm sure you're the same. So if you can get away with something such as a patch or a gel, that's an external source of pain relief, rather than swallowing a pill, putting it into your body, and then it's having to be digested and it's going through your whole system. One of the things that's come onto the market in the UK is these Nurofen patches. I don't believe they're available in the United States at the moment across the counter. In fact, I think you can get a gel which is the same as this, and that's on prescription. But this patch, you can put it wherever you're experiencing the pain. So I usually put one of these patches on my thoracic spine, and initially you'll feel like a tingling and a coldness, and then after about an hour or two you do get some relief. I'm not saying it's going to stop the pain, but it does actually start to get into that point and give you some relief. Something else that I've played around with is this. These are another patch. Sorry, wrong way around. Versatis. The doctors will not probably want to prescribe you these patches. It's basically an anaesthetic. It's lidocaine, and generally these are prescribed for someone who's maybe had chickenpox or shingles. And the after effects of shingles is very painful, and it's the nerve endings. So they give you these patches to put on that area, and basically it works like an anaesthetic. I've actually managed to get the doctor to give me some of these, and I do occasionally use them on my back. And again, they do work, and you can actually have it on your back for 24 hours, but then you have to take it off for 24 hours. So it's something you can try if your doctor's willing to prescribe it for you. So let's get on to the actual medications. There's one other thing here, another little prop that I'll show you. I don't know about you guys, but when I've had a day at the office and you're staring at a computer screen, and I do tend to sort of stick my chin out, so I put a lot of pressure on the back of my neck. If your neck's really hurting at the end of the day and you've just come home and you're sat on the sofa, it's always a good idea to put one of these neck braces on. And make sure you get one that's quite high. This one's, I think this one's getting on for 10 inches. So what it does, it gives you support all the way underneath here. If you're a lady, you might want to get a slightly lower one. I mean, I have got a long neck. I'm almost like a giraffe, to be honest. So I'll sit there and watch the TV, and I'll have this brace on, and I'll have it on for maybe an hour. And then when I take it off, actually my neck feels a lot better. And it's because your neck muscles have been going crazy all day long. And you've just given them a great big rest. So they say, thank you. And basically you lose some of that muscle tension and pain. I wouldn't suggest you wear it all the time, because then you'll start to weaken muscles, and then you'll start reversing, the effect of trying to strengthen your neck. So for me, it's a case of it's relief at the end of the day. And my neck doesn't always hurt, but if I've had a hard day at the office, then generally it does. So I'm going to go through these medications. I'm going to talk about what the UK name is, but I'm also going to give you the USA name as well, so you know what I'm talking about. Right, let's talk about an everyday medication, paracetamol. In America, they call it Tylenol. This is just a general painkiller. It lasts for about 4 hours. It's quick acting. It gives you a wallop. It takes away the pain to a certain degree, but then it soon starts to wear off. A stronger, if you start going up the tree, if you like, in terms of strength from paracetamol, the next drug would be something like codeine. I've got some codeine here somewhere, I believe. This is cocodamol, which is basically paracetamol, but with codeine. Now, codeine is a stronger painkiller. It's an opiate, and I know there's a lot of controversy in the medical profession about prescribing opiates. For some people, they do a good job. Some people, they tend to make you feel a bit sick. They do make you constipated. And in the short term, they can, if you need a big hit of painkiller, an opiate is quite a good thing to have. But the problem is your body gets adjusted to it. And then over time, you need more to get the same pain-killing effect. And before you know it, you're starting to build up resistance. You're taking more opiates. So it's probably not something you want to take long term. It's something that you want to use when you need instant pain. Well, not instant, but certainly you need a big hit to try and get rid of some pain, and use it as and when you're in that situation. Don't rely on it as a long-term solution. Another one that's even further up the tree is tramadol. I did have a nerve trapped in my back, and I went on tramadol, and again, it's an opiate. I started taking it. I took 1 tablet, nothing seemed to happen. I took 2 tablets, nothing seemed to happen. And then I took 3, which apparently is the maximum dose you can take, and I ended up in hospital. I suddenly started being sick violently. My head felt like it was going to explode. I felt really, really horrible. The wife had to ring for an ambulance. An ambulance come and pick me up, and they took me to hospital, and I ended up having to go on a drip. So these opiate drugs, you've got to be really careful with them, because they can be quite powerful, and sometimes they take a while to get into your system, and then when they do, they sort of come on really strong. Let's talk about NSAIDs, non-steroid anti-inflammatory drugs, which basically what they say on the can, which is to stop inflammation. Now, do you remember I said to you that a lot of arthritic conditions, the arthritis, the itis, is the inflammation. DISH is not technically an inflammatory disease, but what happens is that because your body's making adjustments and changes, you'll get localized inflammation as a result of what's going on with DISH. So inflammation doesn't cause DISH, inflammation is a consequence of DISH. So NSAIDs do have a place in our medication. The first line of medication for NSAIDs is ibuprofen, and they call it Advil in USA. This is a very quick, punchy NSAID. It'll work quite quickly. It'll last about 4 or 5 hours. You can take one of those with a paracetamol, and that gives you quite a good hit as well. So if you're in a lot of pain and you need a quick hit, this is, you know, a good combination. The next level of Nsaid from there, this one you can usually buy over the counter. The next one is Naproxen. I think in some places you can buy Naproxen over the counter, but in the UK, this is 250 milligrams. Generally you have to get a prescription. I do take this, and I take a 250 milligram in the morning, and it does give me some relief during the day. There are other NSAIDs. You've got meloxicam. I did have a meloxicam here somewhere. Meloxicam is another type of NSAID. And the differences between these is they inhibit the production of COX-1 and COX-2. COX-1 and 2 are enzymes which cause your body, well, they tell your body to create an inflammatory process. And what these NSAIDs do is they shut that down, basically, that process of inflammation. So it shuts down the enzymes, the COX-1 and COX-2. Like everything, there's always a yin and a yang with these medications. The downside of NSAIDs is that those COX-1 and COX-2 enzymes, they also protect your stomach. So if you stop the production of those, what it does is it makes your stomach susceptible and weak. The lining of your stomach becomes weak, and it's not protected. And what will happen is you can get gastritis, and you can also get ulcers. So if you're taking NSAIDs over a long period of time, that's one of the downsides that could happen. But what you can do, and this is, again, the doctors will probably prescribe, that if you're on NSAIDs over a long period of time, they will probably prescribe you a Metrazole. If you've had indigestion, GERD, GORD, whatever you want to call it, regurgitation, reflux, this is where you've got too much acid in your stomach, you get gastritis, and basically the doctors will prescribe a Metrazole. Metrazole in the USA, let me just check my little list here. Oh, sorry, I didn't put this on my list because I wasn't going to talk about this, but anyway, I think it's called a Metrazole in the USA. Basically, what a Metrazole does is it stops the proton pump inhibitors in your stomach, and what they do is they produce the acid in your stomach. So it gets complicated, but COX-1 and COX-2 protect the stomach. Proton pump inhibitors, they actually produce the acid that could then damage your stomach. So what a Metrazole does is it actually stops the proton pumps from working. So that cuts down on the acid production in your stomach. So if you're taking NSAIDs long term, you need to take a Metrazole as well to protect the stomach. So that's all sounding good for NSAIDs for the time being, but there is also one other big downside of NSAIDs, especially long term. Because they're sodium-based, salt-based, they're not good for high blood pressure, and I've got high blood pressure, so I have to be careful. There's also some evidence that long-term use of NSAIDs can cause heart problems. So again, if you've ever had a heart attack, or if you get blood clotting problems, stuff like that, the doctor will be very wary of prescribing NSAIDs. And finally, with NSAIDs, if you do hit them big time over a long period of time, they can damage your kidneys. Not everybody suffers with it, but it's quite possible that your kidneys could be affected. So that's what you've got to be careful with NSAIDs. You know, they do a good job, but they have got their downsides. Okay, so we've done two types of painkillers. We've done the opioids and we've done the Nsaids. So they're both different types of drugs, but they do help with pain. The next thing that the doctors will offer you is what I call mind-bending drugs. The one that I went on to, I tried for quite some time, was Amitriptyline, which is called Elavil, and it's an antidepressant. And the way it works, well, in fact, they don't quite know what it does, but it works inside the brain, and it stops the messages coming from your body telling you that you're in pain. When I went on to Amitriptyline, it did actually work, and I was quite pleased with it. It never gets rid of all the pain, but it does. It's probably telling your brain that you're not in as much pain as you actually are. So it's sort of masking that pain. The problem with Amitriptyline is when you first start taking it, it's got a sedative effect, which is great because it helps you get to sleep. But in the long term, Amitriptyline does start to affect the quality of your sleep. And this is what I found. I just weren't getting a proper night's sleep. And I was waking up the next day and I was grumpy. And I was just thinking, no, I just feel like crap. So I came off of Amitriptyline. And I said to my doctor, is there something else that we can try? And he suggested Pregabalin. Now, this is another mind-bending medication. Pregabalin in the USA is called Lyrica, and it's basically an anticonvulsant. And you're thinking, whoa, that sounds pretty heavy going, and it is, to be honest. But you're probably like me, you're willing to try something just to see how you get on. So I'll be honest with you, I've not been on this Pregabalin a long period of time. When I first started taking it, I did get a nasty headache and I did feel sick. So you have to go through that. And I'm on basically 2 a day at the moment, so it's 300 milligrams, but I'm told that you need to get to about 450 milligrams for it to actually work. So I might move up to that, and I'll let you know how that goes. Okay, now another antidepressant style drug is duloxetine, or it's called in the USA Cymbalta. This is another type of antidepressant that's trying to quell how your brain processes pain. A lot of people that I've spoken to have said it works really well. I went on it a few years ago and it caused problems with the downstairs mechanisms. So I think that if this happens with guys, it's not great. So I did come off of it in the end. But if you're a lady and it works for you, then it might be a good way to go, because if you can reduce the amount of opioids, Nsaids that you're taking, which ultimately do damage your body, if you can take something else that quells down some of those pain messages that are coming to your brain, then that's good news. Another line of drugs that will help are muscle relaxants. So when you've come home and your back's really killing you and your muscles are really sort of throbbing, working hard to try and keep you upright and all the rest of it, I find that if you take a muscle relaxant at bedtime, this not only helps you sleep, but it also relaxes some of the muscles. One of the medications that I've managed to get the doctor to give me is, in the UK, it's called Baclofen. In USA, it's called Lorelacel. I think that's how you pronounce it. But basically, it's a muscle relaxant. And to be honest with you, I found this is quite good. I just take half a tablet at night, and it helps me get to sleep, and it helps relax your muscles. The next day I do feel a little bit heady, gives me a little bit of a headache when I wake up. But the fact that it's helping relax your muscles and helps you get to sleep is a good thing. Another drug that's similar but a bit more of a heavy duty one is diazepam, benzos as they're called, benzodiazepam. This is again another drug that's like it's a big mallet, and what it does is it sedates you. So if you're having trouble sleeping, diazepam relaxes you, especially if you're also uptight and you're stressed out and all this sort of thing. Diazepam does work, but it is a short-term solution, because again you will get adjusted to this medication. You will find that you'll end up having to increase the dose, and before you know it, you're taking higher doses. And the problem is when you try and come off of diazepam, you can get some nasty side effects, and you don't want to go down that route if you can help it. So the only reason I've got these in my medicine cabinet is if I've had a particularly bad day and I'm feeling stressed out, and I really just want to be zapped for the night, take one of those, and it does help. But keep away from it long term. So I think that's about it really. At the beginning I was talking about the types of pains that you get. So the pains that, the medications that will help with muscle pain are things like paracetamol, some of the opioids, and the Nsaids. So they will help with those types of aches and pains, for sure. If you're further down the road, you will still be taking some of those drugs, but you might be wanting to move over to things like Pregabalin. Pregabalin, which I said to you, is called Lyrica, and also some of the antidepressants, because especially Pregabalin, that works on the actual nerve messages, and that's when I said earlier on, if it's a nerve pain, something's going down your arm or something like that, then you need your brain to be turned off to those nerve pains, and those sort of drugs can help a lot. But if you're also in that ball game where you have got nerve pain, which is horrible, you don't want to be putting up with that too long. That's the time to go and see the doctor and say, look, enough's enough. I need you to start looking at, is this a spur? Is it, pressing on something? Is it in the wrong area? And look at what your options are. I don't want to start talking about surgical options, because that is some pretty serious stuff, and that's something that is a very personal journey, and you need to you would need to discuss that fully with a neurosurgeon, and see what's the best solution for you. If you can help it, try and keep away from it. So if we can use these tools that we've got here in the box to try and give you a reasonably good level of pain relief, then do this as much as you can. Use all these little tools as well, like the neck brace, the Octopus as I call it. Make sure that your posture is correct at work. Make sure you're using posture devices to try and keep your back straight. Don't be leaning over the computer like that, because that will hurt. So I'm hoping that this has been useful. I think I'm going to have to cut this video in half, so I'm going to have to do it in two bits, because I've gone well over my 15 minutes. So I'm going to have to cut it into two. So excuse me if there's some weird starts and finishes to these videos. Look, I hope this is helpful. It's been nice talking to you guys again. I'm seeing the physiotherapist later on this week. I'm just going to go down there and film her and get her to talk to the camera. She's already scared. but she said she wants to try and help if she can. So I've got that to look forward to. But for the time being, nice to see you again, and we'll catch up soon.